Welcome back to NewsMakers. We are with Yani Johanson, Roger Sutton and Mayor Garry Jackson. I should point out, by the way, that since Orion is a council-controlled company, with respect to our next issues, Roger does have to tread carefully, so please do bear that in mind. Roger would love to speak freely, but there are some responsibilities that go with his job. Which brings us to directors' fees for starters, and Jim Anderton has injected directors' fees into the mayoral mix. He is saying that under his mayoralty, he would not like councillors to pocket these directors' fees for serving on boards of council-owned companies. They should see that board time as part and parcel of their core job as a councillor. Yani, are you just going to roll in behind Jim here and fly the flag, or do you see this differently?
No, I think, to me, it makes a lot of sense. Look, I'm appointed to a number of organisations by the City Council. Most of them I don't get a single cent extra for. Those are things like community trusts that do a huge amount of work in our community, and I don't expect to get paid extra. I get paid very well, I might add, as a City Councillor to do my duties and to represent the agencies that I'm appointed to. Now, I can't understand why you would need to get extra money to City Councillors to be directors of council companies. I think there is a wider issue here, and that is there has been a progressive move to remove, councillors as appointees to a number of these organisations, and I have some real concern about that. To give you an example, council doesn't actually appoint any councillors to the airport board. So the airport board can basically make a lot of decisions, and yet there's no one there representing the public interest, the public good, and that concerns me. And I would certainly hate to see council withdraw from appointing councillors to these companies that council own because they don't want to have to deal with the issue of directors' fees being paid. But, we need to look at it into context. This council has been setting up a number of things like the Energy Agency, for example, a whole other set of directors, a whole other set of finances going into that to do something that's inherently council policy. And I just can't. I think we need to step back. We can't keep setting up these trusts and these agencies where every director expects to be paid to be doing things that are core business of council.
The question has been raised on my radio show by a few callers this week. Were any of the city councillors who are now on CCO boards, were any of them directors before they were councillors? To the best of my understanding, the answer is no. Does that suggest they are cushy positions that councillors will happily take up given the money?
You're asking me that question?
Indeed.
Without knowing all of the details, Mike, my position on it is this. If a councillor is able to hold that position in a market test against someone from outside who could go onto that board as a council appointee and represent the council's interest, then I'm okay with them getting paid. Because at that stage they stand head and shoulders in the marketplace as a capable director against a market test of an independent person appointed by council to do that job.
Sure.
If being a councillor gives them some form of head start or inside track, then quite frankly, I guess maybe, yes, I probably do have an issue with it. I've got a wider issue with this, which as a rural council, I can put maybe my view on the table. There is huge inequity here between councillor remuneration across the country, or certainly across the rural-urban divide. For the same job that Yani and his colleagues are doing, whether or not they've got directors' fees, as we've seen added on, councillors in rural districts probably doing the same hours, in some cases maybe even more. In our council, $14,000 a year.
Right. That's a huge disparity, isn't it?
Absolutely. And still probably doing 35, 40 hours around evening meetings, council meetings, standing committees, strategy workshops, interaction with ratepayers, etc., etc. And travelling miles and hours in their own cars.
And Garry raises a good point, because as I understand it, the remuneration for councils is set by the amount of value of the assets that they have.
And
my understanding,
and
the population. And so my understanding from the fees that councillors get paid from the Remuneration Authority is they already take into account the council-controlled companies that they currently have on their books.
Sure. Roger, are you at liberty to say anything on this issue?
I would say a couple of things. I think, Christchurch has actually been really successful owning a whole lot of important infrastructure, like the business that I run, the airport, the port and so on. And the city's done really well out of them. They've made something like $1 billion in dividends out of those businesses in the last 10 years. And that's made a big difference to the amount of infrastructure, the amount of facilities the city has been able to build, and the way that, and keeping the rates down. So keeping these organisations well governed, having good quality directors who can hire good chief executives and fire bad chief executives when they're no good is a really important thing. And I wouldn't want to see anything happen which actually takes away the incentives for directors to for them to appoint really good quality directors. There may be something, if you don't pay directors, like their councillors, they may see their role as being less important. I don't know. But I think it's really important that they do actually turn up and really engage strongly as proper directors, and they don't just see this as another council committee that I can come in and out of depending on whether I've got time.
Right, OK. What we'll do is we'll take a break. We'll have a look at one other mayoral issue pertaining to Jim Anderton and Bob Parker. This is the ongoing debate over the part-time mayor perception. Also, we'll have a look at the horror from Horswell this week in this $100,000 bill that a landlord is facing. Do stay with us.